having had a little Google of you, Pauline, I understand that you used to be a teacher, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Taking that into account and sort of your other life experiences, what drew you to TUSC?
I'd from quite an early age, but I'd say that from the time I graduated, I became a socialist. Before that, I supported the Labour Party, and I genuinely believed that a mixed economy would work. But then Harold Wilson came to power, and it became evident to me that the Labour Party in power was not actually representing the working class. Even back then, in 64, well, it was 66 actually, he'd been in power for 2 years and then got re-elected in 66. And I'd always been on the left wing of the Labour Party. But I was a Labour Party activist, but then the Labour Party threw out Clause 4, which was to secure the means of production in the commanding heights of the economy. In other words, to nationalise the major companies and run them for the benefits of the workers and the population. They threw that out, and more or less I left the Labour Party. Probably I would have been thrown out, but more or less I left it. And so I was really thinking of joining and putting a left platform within it, but then TUSC came along, and this seemed an obvious socialist party. I was actually overjoyed to see it at last, a fight back, a proper fight back against what's happening in this country.
And I mean, it's a very young party, isn't it? But have you noticed any changes within it since it began, and sort of why do you think it's still relevant or so relevant in 2015?
I haven't actually, well, the only changes are its growth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's growing exponentially, and I've had a lot of support online for TUSC, and people who said, you know, they are now looking for alternative. We need a change. We have a society that's run by the millionaires, and they've foisted off something called austerity on us, and not just us, throughout Europe, and use that as an excuse to hold down wages. And the millionaires have got richer, their wealth has doubled, while ours has remained stagnant, and we've actually got pockets of huge poverty within the country.
And for the past sort of 30, 40 years or so, socialism has been, well, it's been unpopular, let's put it like that. There's obviously been, you know, pockets of support, but largely it's been unpopular. And Tony Blair, obviously not a socialist, came out, I think it was a few months ago, saying that when a traditional left-wing party fights a traditional right-wing party, the traditional right-wing party will always win. Why do you think it is that over sort of the past 30, 40 years, socialism hasn't, or the messages of socialism haven't got through to people?
I think a real stop on the progress of socialism was what happened in Russia. It's difficult to understand that, but that seems to have been what has stopped socialism from becoming a worldwide phenomenon. But we now have all the prerequisites for a socialist success in many countries. Indeed, we wouldn't really want the UK to be the socialist country. We would be hoping to be followed. Well, there is Greece, the socialist country. We would be hoping to be followed by a number of European countries and other countries.
So TUSC, obviously socialist party, are there any specific values or specific parts of socialism which are unique to TUSC?
Well,
any specific aspects of
TUSC is anti-cuts.
And for the benefit of young people who don't understand ideology, it's kind of something that's dropped out of our politics and off the political radar, I'd say, with this generation of conviction politicians. But what is it about socialism that people should really be sort of latching on to? And why do you think that capitalism has failed us so badly?
Capitalism was always going to fail because it's a means of production that overproduces, and also it tends to drive down wages, so it actually tends to kill its own markets. Socialism is a much fairer. I think that was what would appeal to youth. I know from teaching in comprehensive schools that youth are well motivated if they can see a point to what they're doing. They don't see a point to voting for same old, but we are offering a totally new agenda and a new vision, really. It's more than that, it's a vision for the country. And we can see that the appropriation of wealth into just a few hands is actually having not just bad, but actually horrendous effects worldwide.
And you're actually quite a large party, aren't you? I think on the website it's, I think your leader said something like, you know, we're the largest party you've never heard of, or something like that. I mean, you're standing 130 candidates, I think, at this election. Do you think it's a bit unfair that you haven't had the same coverage as other parties of a similar size to you?
I think it's outrageous, actually. It's not, I mean, obviously you're giving us a forum, and the local paper has. We've had trouble getting into hustings, and there's been nothing. We had a launch which was barely reported in the press. And you have to look really actually at who controls the media, who owns and controls the media. And it's owned again by the millionaires that are hand in glove with the leadership of the major parties.
Now the left is fragmenting somewhat in the UK. I know that the right is as well, but I'd say just looking at our constituency battle, there are, you know, many parties sort of on the left of centre. I'd say that's a good thing for the diversity of the left, but do you think that the fragmentation of the left vote runs the risk of there not being enough support for Labour, for example, who would be in a position to form a government?
I don't think TUSC will be concerned about the Labour Party, because the Labour Party has an austerity-like programme, and all the three major parties that were in Parliament in January the 15th, I think it was, voted for £30 billion worth of cuts. So TUSC wouldn't be. TUSC is actually opposed to that, or is standing opposed to that. There are some single-issue parties that we would hope would join TUSC, which is a multi-issue socialist and trade unionist party. The encouraging thing actually is that TUSC has embraced a lot, it is a coalition, and it has embraced a lot of the left-wing groups which otherwise were not united in the fight to actually get a socialist alternative on the agenda.
And if you were elected to represent Sutton and Cheam, what would be your sort of core issue that you'd focus on in Parliament?
St Helier Hospital and the NHS. That's a key. But I think education actually comes second, but that has to be a major focus. I think it's the major. I've been to big meetings, you know, and supported I've supported demonstrations and meetings, and it seems like a forever battle, and under whatever happens next week, I think that will be the case.
And on the topic of Parliament, still, it's massively underrepresented. It's too male, too white, too wealthy, you know, too able-bodied. What do you think can be done to make Parliament more diverse? And you know, what is TUSC doing? Is TUSC doing anything, you know, to sort of support diversity within your own party?
Well, TUSC believes in fielding the best candidates, but as it happens, I couldn't find the stats which were sent to me at one time. The 21 candidates in London, we do have a number who are different genders, who are different, who are minority groups, who are disabled. So we have a reasonable representation, but I totally take your point.
By the sounds of things, you had quite an active youth, you know, going on marches and the like. Do you think that the way that young people engage with politics has changed somewhat?
Yes, I think a lot of it's conducted on social media. I think I've actually found that quite heartening and useful, because when we do meet people on the streets, demonstrators, that the social media can call a huge group, where we have policies that, like TTIP, which probably will come to, which desperately need opposing, then we couldn't possibly reach every individual immediately, maybe once every 5 years through the election, but we can reach immediately all those people who are interested, develop action plans, and develop consciousness, and circulate all the facts about it.
Tell me about your strengths and weaknesses, Pauline.
My strengths. Well, I'm enthusiastic, and I'm absolutely committed to the TUSC policies, and I think I have a good understanding of local and national issues. I'm absolutely tenacious in promoting ideas and following and actions. And I think I'm honest, and I think I'm a caring person as well. And I'm only verbally confrontational. I won't fudge issues, so I think telling the truth is very important to me. I have good organisational skills, and I have many interests, and a very enthusiastic commitment, as I said, to the socialist alternative to this country.
And weakness.
I've always had a bad memory. But I have, actually, there was a very smart politician, and he said, oh, that's for other people to judge. I thought that was a very clever, I almost did that, but I have to confess, very bad memory, but I have, which I've always had, but I developed systems to aid recall, like notes and stuff.
Brilliant. I think you mentioned it, and it comes across as you're obviously very passionate about socialism. What really motivates you? What drives you? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
The thought that we've been sold a complete lie, and we've been hoodwinked into actually shoveling billions of pounds where they're certainly not needed, while other people are in desperate circumstances or just unpleasant circumstances, when that is totally needless.